Jack Reeves seemed like an ordinary man until his mail-order bride vanished and was found murdered. That discovery led detectives to dig up his past, quite literally. Beneath the dirt lay another wife and another murder. This week we're talking about the story of a husband whose love came with a body count. Hey everyone, I'm Jen. Thanks for being with us.
Hi everyone, I'm Tina. And Jen, that's an excellent intro.
Thank you much.
I always read your intros before I watch the show, just so I can have an idea of what I'm about to watch. And this intro reeled me right in.
Well, I'm glad it works for you. I hope it works for our listeners too.
I'm sure it does.
Tina, can you believe it? So this week is our 50th episode. How amazing is that?
I think it's so awesome. We were just talking about this before we recorded. 50 episodes, which means almost a full year of recording once a week.
Go us.
And I'm impressed with our ability to be able to coordinate our schedules. It's so difficult these days to find time to hang out with friends. Everybody is so busy. And I just want to thank you, Jen, for making time for me and for us and for the newsies.
Well, thank you, Tina. And thank you to everybody who is listening. I'm super excited to talk about today's episode because when I watched this show, I was like, we have to do this one for our 50th because this story just keeps getting stranger and stranger.
It sure
was
does.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I was like, this is it, 50th episode. Nothing else. This is the one.
And I'm excited because we've only done one other exhumed episode, right?
Yep.
And I remember wanting to watch more of these. So you picked a good one, my friend.
Thank you. Are you ready to jump into it?
Let's do it.
Okay, before we do, a quick listener warning. Some of the things that we're going to talk about are kind of graphic on this show. I guess you're listening to it be graphic.
Yeah, watching it wasn't graphic. Listening to what happens, I guess, can be unsettling.
Yeah, that's a nice way of putting it. Okay, so the show we're talking about this week is called Exhumed Killer Revealed, and we're talking about Season 1, Episode 7, and the show is called Mail Order Murder. Okay, let's jump into it.
Mail order murders.
Murders, yeah, good point. So let's jump into it. It's October 13th, 1994, in the Dallas suburb of Arlington, Texas, whose motto is the All-American Dream City. And for those of you who might not know, Arlington is best known for AT&T Stadium, which is home to the Dallas Cowboys. Now, despite being an Eagles fan myself, go Birds, I have to admit that the Dallas Cowboys are one of the world's most recognizable sports teams. I know my husband is gruffing at the mention of the Cowboys since he and his entire family are diehard Eagles fans. Again, go Birds. But the city of almost 300,000 at the time is also the home of Emelita and Jack Reeves. Detective Tommy Lenore with the Arlington Police Department says on that October day in 1994, the police station got a call from a friend of Emelita saying she was concerned that she had not heard from her.
Detective Tommy Lenore says Emelita, and I love her name.
It's a beautiful name.
It is. It sounds like such a sweet name. The detective says Emelita isn't answering phone calls or pages. Remember pages? Mm-hmm. We had those back in the 90s.
Like the little blocks that you would wear on your hip and you were all cool. I remember when I was in junior high, pagers were like a thing that all the popular kids had. And I was like, I want a pager. And I remember telling my mom, can I have a pager? And she was like, who is going to page you? Who's going to page you? And I'm like, that's a good point. Like, who's going to page me?
I mean, I never had a pager. Wasn't it a thing where... Was it in movies or TV shows where drug dealers wore the pagers?
Yeah. I remember back then they came out with these bubble gums that the packaging looked like a pager and it had a little clip on it.
Yeah.
And I would clip that bubble gum packet on my hip and I was like, I am the coolest thing walking around the mall with my bubble gum pager.
Oh my gosh. Mm-hmm. That's funny.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Emelita isn't answering her phone calls or pages from her friend which is unusual for Emelita. So officers head to Emelita's home to do a welfare check. At first, it seemed like someone was home. There was a car parked out front. Officers could hear dogs barking inside, so they took a walk around the house to check it out. And when they got to the garage, they looked through a window and saw a man kneeling on the ground in the dark.
Suspect.
Very odd. Officers tell the man to open the door for them, so he does. And we find out that the man is named Jack Reeves, and he's the homeowner. When questioned about Emelita, Reeves tells officers that Emelita is his wife, and he's sure she's fine, even though he didn't know where she was. Reeves tells officers that he thinks she's out somewhere with some friends. He also tells officers that this isn't unusual behavior for Emelita. He says it's normal for her to go away with friends for days at a time.
And him not know where she is.
Sounds strange.
Very odd. We hear a few days pass and Emelita still hasn't returned from her so-called outing with friends. So Detective Lenore digs deeper and goes back to visit Jack Reeves. He told them his wife was from the Philippines and he met her through a mail order bride service called Cherry Blossoms. Yep, Tina, you heard that right. A mail order bride. Now, I've heard of these things before on TV shows and stuff, but to know that they actually exist is crazy to me.
I also forget that these dating options exist. I kind of thought mail order brides were a myth until I saw a similar situation play out on 90 Day Fiancé.
You love that show.
I do love that show. I am hooked on that show. The characters, the silly drama, and mostly because we get a peek at life in other cultures and in other countries. And in one of the seasons, Jen, there was a man who went to another country. I can't remember off the top of my head which one. And he attended some sort of party with a bunch of women so that he could find a fiancé. And it felt similar to a mail order bride situation, but it was all done in person. And from what I can remember, it didn't work out well for him. But it was interesting to see that this exists.
This is like something where you go to like your favorite store, like Target or Walmart or whatever, and you're going to pick out socks. One of these socks is coming home with me. I don't know which one yet, but one of these is the lucky one.
I do love a good pair of socks.
I mean, whoa.
I know. But in his situation, in Jack Reeves' situation, it sounded like he was using a similar thing, right? From a catalog of some sort. I don't know if it was online or a book of women that he was looking through.
Like thumbing through the pages. This one looks like she's going to be a good one for the rest of my life. What in the world?
I know. I can't believe that that's a thing. Wow. Back to the show. So we see what looks like a black and white page on the screen, and it's full of what look like personal ads. Each one has a woman's photo and a brief description about them underneath, and it lists their name, their age, where they're from, and their hobbies and interests. Jen's just staring at me.
I mean, clearly the crucial things, first and last name, how old they are, where they're from, and their hobbies and interests. That right there is the foundation of
what you need to have a happy marriage
for the rest of your days. Wow. We hear Emelita was living in poverty back in the Philippines, and Jack Reeves was her escape from that life. Her parents reportedly encouraged her to marry Jack, and 4 months after meeting, the two got hitched. Now, I did some digging online, and according to the New York Times, Emelita was 18 when she married Jack, who at the time was much older. Much older. According to the LA Times Online, he was 46 at the time of their marriage. She was 18, he was 46.
Wow.
Match made in heaven. 2 years later, we hear the couple welcomed a son named Kendall.
At this point in the investigation, Detective Lenore is still trying to get information from Reeves, asking if he knows anything that could help them track down his wife. Then Reeves tells the detective something unexpected. He says his wife may have been having an affair with a woman named Mona Lisa, and he believes Emelita could be with her. And I just need to mention that Mona Lisa, another great name.
That is a good name.
Mona Lisa.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Mona Lisa, by the way, is the woman who first called police asking for a welfare check on her friend Emelita. When questioned by investigators, Mona Lisa says the two women were close friends. She also says she was with Emelita the night of October 11th when Emelita gave her a ride to work around 7:30 p.m. She says it was the last time she saw or heard from Emelita.
So what happened to Emelita between the night of October 11th and 13th, 1994? That's what friends of the 26-year-old want to know. So they rally and pop up missing posters throughout the city of Arlington. They also called on the local media to get the word out about her disappearance. Friends knew something was wrong, and because we're told she loved her son more than anything in the world and would never willingly have left him.
Mona Lisa also tells investigators that Emelita had planned on taking her son and leaving Jack, and says Jack Reeves was not a nice person. She tells investigators that Emelita told her to call police if she disappeared, because that means Jack did something to her.
Ooh, red flag for days. Investigators, meanwhile, dig into Jack Reeves because one of the first people always looked at in a murder case is the spouse. We hear on the show that Reeves had been in the Army and now worked as a painter. Sounds normal enough, but police say he said something to them that was unnerving. Reeves, we hear, told investigators he had been married in the past and that his wife had also died. He told investigators that in 1978 his wife Sharon had committed suicide. So his current wife is missing, and his wife before her died of suicide. Either this guy has some very bad luck with wives, or not everything is what it seems, in my opinion.
Detective Lenore says at this point, he doesn't believe what Jack Reeves is telling him about Emelita.
I don't think we all are.
Correct. He says Reeves is giving him bad vibes, and the red flags are flying. Detective Lenore says since Reeves' first wife didn't die of natural causes, he wants to investigate further. So he calls the police department in Copperas Cove, Texas. That's where Jack Reeves and Sharon lived when they were married. But when Detective Lenore requests the police report for Sharon's death, they tell him there isn't one. But the Copperas Cove PD wants to meet with Detective Lenore, and they tell him to come to the station. And when he gets there, Jen, Detective Lenore walks into a room filled with retired police officers who investigated Sharon's death. And they tell him their recollection of what happened. And before you get into that story, Jen, I just have to mention how weird it is that there is a room full of officers who investigated this death, yet there is no police report.
That's a good point. I hadn't even thought about that.
I think it's so strange, and there's no explanation for it on the show. So let's just get into what these officers say to Detective Lenore.
We hear 16 years earlier, on July 20th, 1978, Jack Reeves had called police telling them his wife Sharon had shot herself in their bedroom. Detective Lenore tells us that she had a shotgun between her legs when police arrived, and she had a shotgun wound through her heart. But turns out she wasn't dead when police showed up. Emergency crews rushed her to the hospital where she later ended up passing away. Now, Detective Lenore says that Reeves at the time had told officers at the scene he heard a gunshot and found his wife, and told officers that he believed she had pulled the trigger with her toe. To which he said there was evidence since there was a cut on his wife's toe. We learned that Sharon and Jack Reeves had been married for almost 18 years and they had 2 sons. And during their marriage, Reeves had been deployed to Korea. During the time of his deployment, friends of Sharon said she started seeing another officer in the military and she was in love with him, and that she decided to leave her husband to start a future with this other man. Now, friends of Sharon say that Reeves wanted to save his marriage, so he came home from Korea days before she died. So back in 1978, police in Copperas Cove thought her death was suspicious. So that might be why there were so many officers who recalled it.
Well, so did other people. We hear from one of Sharon's friends who says the way Sharon died didn't make sense and that she had so much to live for. We also learn there was a note that was found near Sharon that said she was torn between two men she loved, and it was too much to take, and that's why she ended her life. The narrator says the note seemed to be written by Sharon in her handwriting, and because of it, the gunshot wound was ruled the cause of death, and there was no autopsy. But Detective Lenore says an autopsy is absolutely necessary in a case like this to find out if that gunshot wound was caused by suicide, homicide, or an accidental shooting.
This takes us to December 8th, 1994, in Copperas Cove, Texas, a little less than 2 months after Emelita went missing, when Lenore gets a call from a detective who worked Sharon's so-called suicide. Lenore tells us that that detective kept a crime scene photo of Sharon from the day of her death. He says he instantly saw several inconsistencies that stuck out. Some of the things that stuck out, he says, were the blood patterns, the positioning of the barrel, and he says it looked like Sharon's death had been staged. At this point, Lenore had an inkling that something was wrong, so he asked Sharon's 84-year-old father if they could exhume her to basically dig her up. That's what they were going to do.
We hear from Patricia Springer, a true crime author, and she says that Sharon's father gave them permission and said, "Thank goodness someone is looking into this because he killed my daughter," meaning Jack Reeves. And while this is going on, Detective Lenore is still investigating Emelita's disappearance. He says he's looking at all possibilities. Could she be in jail or in a hospital, or did she leave the country?
This takes us to December 14th, 1994. A small crowd gathered around Sharon's grave, including 2 police officers who had worked her case back in the 70s. They watched on as Sharon's grave was dug up and her casket was raised and taken to the coroner's office for an autopsy.
Jen, hold that thought, because it's time to refill our coffee mugs and give our listeners a quick message from our sponsor.
This episode is sponsored by Jake Tatum, top producing mortgage lender with the Wood Group of Fairway Independent Mortgage Corporation. Before Jake was helping families get into homes, he spent years in law enforcement, solving problems under pressure. He learned how to read a scene, dig into the facts, and separate truth from noise. Now he brings that same level of clarity and precision to the mortgage world.
Because let's be honest, in this market, it can feel like there are clues, twists, and suspects everywhere. Interest rates moving, headlines popping, and everyone online acting like they have the secret code. Jake cuts through all of that.
Jake does all loan types: conventional, FHA, investment, renovation, and a one-time closed construction loan, you name it. And he also specializes in VA loans, making sure our veterans get every advantage they've earned.
And if you're thinking about refinancing, whether it's to lower your payment, pull cash out, or restructure your loan, Jake can break down your options and guide you through every step.
If you want a lender who treats your loan like a case file and actually solves it, connect with Jake today. Start at TatumHomeLoans.com. That's TatumHomeLoans.com.
Jen, is your coffee mug filled?
It is.
Let's get back to our show.
Dr. Jeffrey Bernard, who's a chief medical examiner, said that they expected to face some challenges when doing the autopsy, since not only had Sharon been buried for more than 16 years, but because of the weather in Texas. It is super harsh there in the summertime, and decomposition happens very quickly.
We see video of a casket being brought out from a grave on the screen, and Patricia Springer, the true crime author, says the casket was one of the best money can buy. It was a beautiful casket made of metal and sealed tight. Detective Lenore thinks this is good news because at least it might have helped preserve the body. The narrator has a great line in here, Jen. She says, "The top of the line casket that Jack Reeves picked out for Sharon, ironically, may be his undoing if it preserved her body." And Detective Lenore says when they opened the casket, they discovered the body was so well preserved, he couldn't believe it. It was an airtight casket. Dr. Bernard, the chief medical examiner, says that Sharon's body was in a better state than cases he's seen where the body is, and excuse my language here, relatively fresh. He goes on to tell us about his examination of Sharon's body.
Dr. Bernard says there's no gunpowder on Sharon's skin, which would be there if she had in fact shot herself. He also says he doesn't think she would fall back on the bed if she had shot herself. Instead, he believes she would have fallen forwards or straight down. And remember that cut on the toe? Dr. Bernard says he didn't think it came from firing the shotgun with her foot. So he ended up ruling it a homicide. And Lenore said the ruling was a game changer.
This is huge. Now Detective Lenore goes to a criminologist, Captain Tom Bevel, to look into Sharon's death. And the objective here is to examine the blood stain patterns and the blood flow on her body. Because if she was sitting, she should have circular blood stains. But Sharon had blood flowing down her leg, which he says means she had to have been in a different position when she was shot. He says they used a mannequin the same size as the victim to experiment and find out the exact position they would have to have been in when the shot was fired. He says after doing this that there's no way Sharon could have been sitting down or could have pulled the trigger with her toe when she was shot. He says she had to be standing, and the only person that could have shot her in the house was her husband.
Lenore believes Jack Reeves shot Sharon, staged her body, cut her toe, and staged the crime scene to make it look like a suicide. And that's when an arrest warrant was filed for Jack Reeves on March 25th, 1995. 17 years after Sharon's death, Jack Reeves was charged with murder. But what he was doing during the time of his arrest makes this even crazier, in my opinion.
Detective Lenore says they set up surveillance around Jack Reeves' home, where they see him drive to the post office. And that's when they make their move and arrest him at the post office. And why, Jen, was Jack Reeves at the post office?
What was he doing?
Detective Lenore says he was mailing a letter to the Philippines to arrange for another mail order bride.
I'm shaking my head at Tina.
Unbelievable. But he's not going down quietly. Detective Lenore says Reeves was mad and yelling at him from the back seat of the police cruiser, wanting to know why he was sitting there in handcuffs. The detective tells him he's under arrest for the murder of his wife, and Detective Lenore says Jack's response was incredible. Jack said, "Which one?"
During the police investigation, Jack Reeves didn't confess to anything and refused to talk.
But Reeves is indicted 5 days later by a grand jury for the murder of his first wife, Sharon.
Was Sharon his first wife? For that, you'll have to wait till the end of the episode. But for now, police are left wondering, where is Emelita? Randall Reeves, who is Jack and Sharon's 26-year-old son, steps forward at this point and talks to police. He tells police he may have evidence in her case. He tells investigators his dad asked him to hide Emelita's cell phone. Red flag. And he helped police track it down.
Detective Lenore says they have been searching for the cell phone since they started investigating this case. And Patricia Springer, the true crime author, says that Randall didn't believe the story his father told him about Emelita's disappearance. And his dad is behind bars, accused of killing his mother. So he tells police where to find the cell phone, and they go back to the Reeves house and they find it. So they know wherever Emelita is right now, she doesn't have her cell phone with her. And this rings alarm bells because we hear she's not one to go anywhere without her phone. But that's not all the information Randall has. He has more. He says when police first went by the house to do that welfare check on Emelita, he says that night his dad destroyed and gutted the sleeper sofa in the house by cutting it up and removing the sleeper.
Red flag. Randall also told police his dad had to wash his truck, which he had used to transport that sofa.
Detective Lenore thinks Reeves used that sofa to do something terrible. He says he believes Jack Reeves gutted the sofa to put Emelita's lifeless body in it, and that's how he transported her body.
We here in the state of Texas, you can file a murder case against someone without a body, but it's very hard to do so. It's like that old saying, no body, no crime. So police were determined more than ever to find Emelita's body. Police ended up going back to Reeves' son Randall, who told them that his dad went camping at Lake Whitney State Park in Texas regularly. We hear he was very familiar with the lake and the area around it because he had been visiting it for years. Now, I did a little digging, and according to the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department, Lake Whitney sits between Dallas and Waco, two big cities in Texas. And it's a place known for its camping and clear water. And apparently, it's well known for largemouth, striped, and white bass, as well as blue catfish. I'll be honest, I'm not much of a fisher person, whatever you want to call it, but some of our listeners probably are, so I wanted to tell them that little factoid.
Nice. Side note, Jen, I was just having a conversation with someone about how cool it must be for fishermen to catch their own food. They catch a fish and have fresh fish for dinner. And I must be some kind of old person that I suddenly think this is an amazing feat. People have been fishing for thousands of years, and just now I think it's kind of cool. And I'm not much of a fisherman either, but my dad is, and he's been teaching me a few things, and I did recently catch a fish.
Look at you!
I caught a pinfish. Do you know what a pinfish is, Jen?
No idea.
Gin.
Gin.
Pinfish gin.
No.
It's a cute fish, first of all. And apparently it's a bait fish. So a bait fish took my bait. Anyway, I'm obviously not a great fisherman, and I released the pinfish because I didn't need it for bait and I wasn't going to eat it. Back to the story. Detective Lenore says they talked to park rangers at Lake Whitney who had records showing that Jack Reeves went to Lake Whitney the day after Emelita went missing. He says the area is dense, a wooded area, and it wouldn't be difficult to hide a body there. And he believes Emelita is there. So police did a search at Lake Whitney, but they didn't find anything.
This takes us to October 1st, 1995, a few months after the initial search around Lake Whitney. We hear a hunter and his son were in the woods near the lake when they stumbled upon a human skull. Through forensics, the remains at the lake were confirmed to be those of Emelita Reeves. And on October 30th, 1995, Jack Reeves is indicted for Emelita's murder. Remember, he's already sitting in a jail cell charged with his other wife's murder, and he's charged a second time with murder, this time for Emelita's death.
We learned that about 3.5 months after Emelita's body was found, Jack Reeves goes on trial for the murder of his first wife, Sharon. The chief medical examiner that did the autopsy on Sharon says there was a lot of attention on the trial because of the unusual fact that they exhumed the body of Sharon 16 years after she was buried. We learned that through a reenactment, the prosecutor showed the jury it wouldn't have been possible for Sharon to have pulled the trigger with her toe, and apparently that was enough to convince a jury.
So what happened? The jury found Jack Reeves guilty of Sharon's murder, but what shocks everyone is his prison sentence. He was only sentenced to 35 years. When I heard this, I about fell out of my chair. 35 years for murder. What? Are you serious? I mean, they better get him on Emelita's murder and lock him away for life.
Patricia Springer says at the time it happened, the maximum sentence for murder was 35 years in Texas law.
That blows my mind.
I tried to look up this information, and honestly, I had a hard time verifying it. I wasn't sure if she meant the time of the trial or the time that the murder happened. I'm assuming she meant the time the murder happened.
Correct. That's usually how it would work. But I have a hard time. From what I know about Texas, it sounds like they have always been kind of tough on, like, stricter on homicide cases. So 35 years, a maximum sentence of 35 years just seems very short.
It didn't make sense to me either. And from what I found on the internet, I couldn't find anything that verified the Texas law for murder in the 70s.
Okay. So everyone's hoping for a longer sentence with his second trial, which began on August 9th, 1996. And just 7 days after the trial started, and only 70 minutes of deliberations, the jury reached a verdict. And Reeves was found guilty, and he was sentenced to 99 years in prison.
Patricia Springer says exhuming Sharon's body was the key to getting justice for Emelita. After Sharon was exhumed and examined, the pieces also came together to get Jack Reeves behind bars for Emelita's murder.
We hear from Patricia Spring that we will never know what Emelita could have done the rest of her life had she gotten away from Jack. Sharon, meanwhile, also had everything to look forward to in life, and both women were tragically killed by this man, this piece of scum, in my opinion, named Jack Reeves, and he took away 3 children's mothers. Detective Lenora says at the end of the show, and he's kind of tearing up here while he's saying this, that he believes that putting Jack Reeves in prison ended up saving the lives of countless more women in the world. I think he's absolutely right, considering when he was arrested, Reeves was out shopping for another woman already. And before the show ends, we learn that Jack Reeves had another wife, a woman named Mayong Mai Chong Reeves, who allegedly drowned in 1986.
Jen, when I saw that, I got full body chills. This man is a monster. And also, this is what you meant earlier when you said, is Sharon his first wife?
Yep. I, of course, had to do some digging after this bombshell revelation at the end of the show. And this is what I found. According to the LA Times Online, Jack Reeves was first married when he was 18 years old to a girl who was only 15 years old at the time of their marriage. The exact year of their marriage is not mentioned in the article, but it is stated that she was his first wife. Now, after Mayong's death, family members had been told she died of drowning, which seemed very bizarre to them because she avoided the water at all costs because she didn't know how to swim. The article does not state if she died in a lake or in a river, but some sort of body of water. It's stated in the article by the LA Times Online that family members were suspicious of Jack Reeves when family members noticed bruising on Mayong's face after she was laid in an open casket. Her sister had stated that drowning would not cause bruising on the face, obviously. So the family demanded that Jack Reeves order an autopsy. But according to the article, instead of an autopsy and burial, which had been planned, Jack Reeves immediately had Mayong cremated. Meanwhile, the article states that a local justice of the peace had ruled her death as an accident because her body had been removed from some sort of water.
So Mayong was his first wife then?
Yes. So Mayong was his first wife. Sharon was his second wife. Emelita was his third wife.
And no one investigated Mayong's death because he cremated her.
Exactly. And nobody would have investigated Sharon's death had it not been for Detective Leonore.
Wow.
What an episode. I will tell you, we've done another one of these exhumed episodes before where the victim was Grandma Irma. For those of you who have not listened to it, it was a great episode. It was a sad episode, but I think it was one that really shed light on how these exhumations can help police solve crimes that have gone years and years without being solved.
It's crazy to me that 16 years after Sharon died, they were still able to tell how her death happened. It's incredible.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you.
I would have never thought, if I was that investigator, I would have thought for sure it's been 16 years. There's no way we're going to be able to get anything, from exhuming the body. I'm really glad that they did it.
Mm-hmm. That they stuck to their guns and were determined to figure it out.
Yeah.
I'm running low on my coffee, so I need to go make a cup really quick. Speaking of coffee, I also want to say thank you for all those who have contributed to our coffee fund. We have received an outpouring of support, and we love you all very much for it. Our coffee donation site is buymeacoffee.com/2crimenewsies. Newsies. You can go to the website or you can find it from our homepage. We're at
TrueCrimeNewsies.com.
Perfect. I was like, hold on.
I could see your brain working
my
right
little
there.
hamster wheel. It's turning. It's turning. So,
you sure do need another cup.
I do. It's a struggle. I'm on the bus right now. I'm on the struggle bus.
And we have coffee every time we record.
Yes, it's a must.
Yeah.
It's a must.
So thank you for fueling us.
Yes, for sure. And thank you again for all of the support. We are on our 50th episode. This right here is our 50th episode. And Tina and I are truly touched by all the love we've gotten from every single one of our listeners. Thank you again for listening to us for another week of True Crime Newsies, and we will talk to you guys again next week. Bye.